Welcome to the Blue Ballers podcast.
Oh yeah. No, me. 10. It's I. There is no I in Blue Ballers podcast, but there's a me. There is no me either. But anyway, welcome to the Blue Ballers podcast. I'm quite impressed with us because we managed to get another episode in within a week. When was our last one? Was it on Friday? I can't remember. I think it was Friday.
Okay.
And we managed to come up with another show on, what's today? Tuesday, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
I'm all over the place right now, I can't lie. I'm in a different time zone to where I was before. I was in Cardiff. I don't want to say anything because I might incriminate myself, but let's just say I'm in a different time zone to my previous time zone. So all over the place.
You're in the same time zone.
Okay. All right. Well, I read something about anyway. So we wanted to kind of cover Chelsea's transfer month this month because there's so much happening at the moment. So much uncertainty that wasn't there previously. There was a lot of positive direction in where we were going with regards to our results and the way the team was coming together and, Lampard. And it's sort of in the last few weeks, in the last sort of 6 games, has just sort of unraveled a bit. And I don't know if it's changed our plans completely, but I think it has a big bearing on where we thought we were going to be, against where we are right now. With regards to transfers, I know that there was one standout name that kept popping up that, we were kind of certain that, okay, it's either going to be this window, the January window, it's going to be the summer window. And after the last few results, it's becoming less and less likely that this is going to happen. And that is Declan Rice. So we were obviously linked with Declan Rice. We've been linked with him for about a year now. But obviously, we weren't able to complete his signing in the summer. We had a really big window in the summer. And then, the journalist at The Athletic said, we'll be going back for him in January, which is great. It gives us enough time for the other players to settle in. And then, Declan comes in and because it's a central midfield role, there's not a lot that he needs to kind of adapt to or contribute in, with regards to the attacking phase or anything. So, but it's looking less and less likely now. So what is your take on that at the moment?
You don't know if it's going to happen or not, really. So I'm just going to watch and wait and see.
Before you tell me what you think, what do you think of Declan Rice as a player?
Oh, I think he's fantastic. I think he's really good at what he does, which is being a DM. Someone to cover the back two, and then to also distribute as well.
Yeah,
that's how I see him, at least. Mm-hmm. How do you see him?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this name over the last couple of years. Obviously, he's a player that played for our academy. He played alongside guys like Mason Mount, who I think they're best friends or something like that. So, he has that Chelsea connection, that previous Chelsea connection. I think his family are all Chelsea fans as well. So, there was that obvious, link that they were going to make. But, at the time when we were first linked with him, I never saw him as a player that we needed or didn't think he was particularly good enough. This is when he was just starting out. But I think in the last sort of 6 to 9 months or so, he's really kind of taken his game up a level. And I think under David Moyes, who's the West Ham manager, he's really kind of become a really, important player for them. But also, when you look around the league, there are not many players that are better than Declan Rice. And I was looking at players the other day that are in the Premier League. We've got Rodri at Man City, we've got Fernandinho, and then Fabinho. And then when you look at the rest of the kind of players that play that sort of position, which is the kind of it's hard to say sitting because he goes forward so often, but that sort of defensive midfielder, I'm not seeing very many players that are better than him at that. And I don't just say this for the Premier League, but I think in Europe, when you look around, I can't see that sort of quality, kind of arising at his age for him to be at this level and performing at such a high standard. Aside from that, obviously he's got leadership skills. He's got, you know, this persona on the pitch that's quite infectious to other players. You know, he kind of has that John Terry effect on the people around him, where he's able to get them going, and I think that certainly reflects in West Ham's form. And then ultimately, it was a player that, you know, we were heavily linked with because Frank Lampard was at the club, and Frank Lampard is obviously a very big fan of him. So naturally, I just felt it was a good fit for us. We know that, okay, we haven't got great midfielders, you know, in that central midfield position, with the exception of N'Golo Kante. But I think even Kante, the last few games, has been a bit exposed for some of his weaknesses, which I feel, you know, Declan Rice, you know, covers with his strengths kind of thing. So he's definitely a player that I wanted to see at Chelsea. Certainly this month, but yeah.
Do you think that, regardless of who the manager is, Declan Rice would suit Chelsea?
I think so. Yeah, I think. Do you know what it is? It's a position where you don't have to, where there's not a lot of pressure to deliver. So, you know, whenever you see young players coming through, they always play the midfield. You know, if they're a centre back or if they're a right back or something, they always play midfield before they. Sorry, if they're a centre back, they always play midfield before they go into the centre back role, because there's less pressure, there's less for them to deal with, and they know they have the added support behind them. With Declan Rice, he can certainly play both positions with ease. He's a very good centre back, but he's also obviously he's plied his trade as a midfielder. That's how he's built his name, sort of thing. So it's not a case of him being a player that Lampard particularly wants. I think any manager in world football should identify the sort of talent that he is and sort of build. It's tough to say build their midfield around him, because he's not really, performed that, you know, on several scales. But he's certainly a player I feel a lot of managers will see potential in. So, you know, whether it's Lampard, whether it's anyone else, it's dependent on what sort of football the manager plays. But, you know, he looks like a very safe signing. I know I keep rambling on about him, but I don't know. It makes too much sense almost.
No, definitely. Be like he's been playing in the Premier League now, so you'd hope that if he were to join Chelsea, he'd be able to jump right into it. It's quite similarly to how Chilwell just fitted into the squad. And, you know, it just seemed so smooth.
Yeah. I mean, there is the added bonus that...
Right.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, so yeah, you'd hope that he would be able to do that. And, you know, that quality doing in the Premier League, it seems very safe, as you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly helps that he's English speaking. But I think also he has such a close relationship with so many of our current players. Tammy and Callum and Mason and Tomori, Reece. So he's played with these guys from a young age. I mean, up till he was about 14. So he's obviously got that relationship. It wouldn't be difficult for him to come in and get adjusted quickly. It was a case of, you know, is he actually good enough for the club? And I do truly think that he's quite a key signing to our future. And you know, like I said, he's 21, 22. He could easily be a player that we keep for the next 10 years, and, you know, we wouldn't have to worry about that position. I truly think he's that good. Physically, he completes 90 minutes every single week at high level. He's, you know, relatively injury free. So, you know, the little things like that for me are important, because when you're mounting a title charge, you want your best players fit. You want players that will be available every single week. I don't think he plays with a high risk. He doesn't play a high risk game. His kind of risk is minimal, but his output is so high. So I hope, regardless of whoever's the manager, I hope we still keep on track with him.
Definitely. I think another thing that I really like about him is his leadership qualities. You know, in the most recent games, there have been times when I've really wanted Jorginho to start or just to be subbed on early, because he has that ability to get the players around him to push themselves and to go in positions that they need to be in, and just overall organize the team, and I think Declan Rice also has that ability.
Yeah,
I think it'll be very
definitely.
useful as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is obviously dependent on, like we said, who the manager is as well. But um, the sort of money that they're talking about is about 60 to 80 million pounds. I
Hmm.
don't know how accurate that's going to be come the time that we actually start negotiating, because we know Marina's really good with pricing. I don't think we'll necessarily be paying that high, which is, I mean, great, obviously, but I think a lot of people also fail to understand the way transfer fees sort of work, in terms of, okay, we've spent 80 million pounds on a player. Um, if we keep the player for the next 10 years, then his value is basically 8 million pounds a year, which I think is a very small fee to pay every single season to keep one of the best, for me, the best young defensive midfielder in the league, if not the world at the moment. Um,
Mm.
so, and if we have to sell him, we would easily still make between 40 and 50 million pounds just off, I mean, him being an England player sort of tax.
Yeah,
So in the end, I mean, if we're paying £30 million, if we're losing out on £30 million for, I don't know, 2 seasons, I think it's worth it, and I don't think we should pay too much mind to the sort of money being discussed. Yeah. So all right, so I think we're in agreement with Declan Rice. He's
yeah.
best player in the world. No, I'm joking. So another player, another name been doing the rounds with Chelsea. Quite an important name, quite an important rumor. Gigi Donnarumma has been linked with Chelsea quite heavily now, because he's a free agent at the end of the season. His agent is obviously Mino Raiola, who's notorious for getting his clients what they want by any means, and he certainly looks out for himself as well. Um, but I think there's so much that can be said about this transfer, because we've obviously had a lot of issues with the goalkeeping position. But before I get into that, what do you think of Donnarumma as a player?
He is exceptional. I mean, forget his age, his presence, between the two posts is phenomenal. He is massive and he's quick and he is really large. He is a large goalkeeper. You would feel that half of the shots that he saves is purely based off the amount of area that he covers.
Do you think,
Um,
just on a side note, do you think defenders feel more comfortable with a bigger goalkeeper in between the sticks, or do you think that doesn't really matter?
I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know because I don't play, so I can't tell.
You play FIFA.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I guess you could speculate. You could compare. I don't know, Kepa and Mendy and see the difference, the change,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
attitudes
there's
towards the goalkeepers.
pretty
Maybe
obvious,
that would
mate.
change it. Sorry.
I said that's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it could be many reasons. I don't know if the height would change it. Maybe they'd feel, in case if they miss a header, the goalkeeper's out there.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
to
really.
cover
Yeah.
them.
He's
Yeah.
been, for some reason, it's felt like he's been 21 for the last 5 years now. Like, we've been hearing about this geezer for so long, but like, I mean, he's still like 21, which is crazy. But he's managed to maintain his standard, even though he's been playing in a quite a average Milan team, who are not so average at the moment. I think they're somewhere near the top of the table.
They're doing quite
Um,
well. Yeah.
yeah, they're doing quite well. So, and he's obviously a big player for them as well. Um, I would consider him, if he's not already world class, consider him someone that's very obviously going to be world class. He's going to be in that next generation sort of goalkeepers that the Oblaks and the Alissons and those sort of goalkeepers. I think that's his ceiling. He's
Who
that
knows?
good.
Maybe he could. Sorry. Who? Maybe he could be the next Gigi. You could say.
He could be the next Gigi Buffon, exactly. So, he has a lot of potential, and for us to be linked with him is very exciting. But at the same time, it is obviously, there is quite a conflict as well, because we've obviously had issues with the goalkeeping position ourselves. We obviously signed Kepa 2 years ago now for 70 million or 72 million, whatever it is, and obviously it's not gone to plan. I don't, a lot of people think that he's a bad keeper. I don't think he's a bad keeper. I think he looks like he's really shot of confidence. He looks like he's, just not moving the same way he used to. His reflexes are poor. His distribution isn't great anymore. So it's just a player I think that needs a change of environment, a change of club, and he will find his ability soon, and we'll see what his true ability is at. Maybe somewhere where there's less pressure to deliver. But I think the Kepa chapter is now closed when we signed Mendy. But now this is where the issue is, because what do we do with Mendy? Because okay, we bought him for 20, 25, 30 million or whatever it was. But I was, and he, to be fair to him, he hasn't done badly. But I think a lot of us kind of jumped the gun a bit with him because, we were desperate for a goalkeeper that was a bit more commanding, a bit more, his save percentages would be higher than Kepa and Caballero from last season, which we got. We got that. But the thing is, it's not what we need. Our requirements are not to have a goalkeeper that's better than Kepa and Caballero. It's to be of Chelsea standard. It's to maintain the sort of tradition we've had with goalkeepers since we bought in Czech, and then Courtois, and obviously it's not gone right with Kepa. So we thought Mendy was going to be the next thing, and I just don't think he's as good as we thought he was, and I think that reflects a lot in his in some statistics that I've seen recently, where they do a chart of savable shots, and his percentages are quite average, quite mid-level. And that just, that's down. He's been here for a couple of months, so that could obviously improve. I'm self-confessed to not having seen a lot of him over 90 minutes, so that could improve. I don't know, but when you have the opportunity to sign someone like Donnarumma, do you stick with Mendy or do you go for Donnarumma? And I know I'm not trying to make that sound as easy to answer as possible, but what would you do in that situation?
First of all, I think the money that we spent on Mendy was great for an amazing second choice goalkeeper. I think that we brought him in because our first choice goalkeeper at the time, Kepa, wasn't performing, and we needed someone who we could rely on until Kepa comes back to form.
Yeah,
clearly Kepa isn't gonna do that anytime soon. So I think we're looking towards Donnarumma now as our first choice goalkeeper, and I don't see any issues with that. He's a free agent, and he is so young, as you're saying, and he has loads of time.
It's obviously a big if whether he comes or not, because obviously I can't imagine us being the only club interested in him, and certainly if there are other clubs interested in him, they'd offer him what they can offer him for a signing fee and wages and all that. So we would have to compete in that sense. But I think also, if we don't sign him, do we still go out and look for another goalkeeper, or would you stick with Mendy and maybe sign another second choice if we can sell Kepa and maybe Caballero leaves or becomes third choice? Like, how would you play that if we didn't sign Donnarumma?
I'd want a first choice goalkeeper. I think I'd only want an improvement on Mendy. I don't see the point of getting a second choice to Mendy.
Do you have any names that you can mention?
No, Donnarumma was the only one that I thought made sense.
Yeah,
to get for what it is, and it just happens to be that he's a free agent as well. But in terms of first choice goalkeepers, I can't see any that wouldn't break the bank like an Oblak or something.
I don't think there's a shortage of good goalkeepers in football right now. I just think they're all at clubs, that don't necessarily need to sell. Oblak is obviously the one that we get linked with every single window, who we obviously want to happen every single time, and he's not old yet. I think he's like 28 or something. So he's still someone that I wouldn't completely shut the door on yet. But at the same time, he plays for one of the biggest clubs in world football, so he has no reason to particularly leave. I think he's the captain there as well, so But I think this sort of opportunity doesn't really come to you that often. And when it does, as much as I like Mendy, I think you were spot on with what you said, is that, we paid the fee that we paid for him is, okay for a second choice goalkeeper. And, if we were to move forward with it, with Donnarumma, I can see that being a really good pairing where, Mendy takes maybe the Champions League group stages and Donnarumma does the leagues, and then Mendy does the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup sort of thing. So I think that would be a good goalkeeping union partnership sort of thing. Um, but yeah, is that something that you would like to see as well? Or do you think we need to, or do you think Mendy would leave, on assumption that he won't be our first choice goalkeeper?
No, I think it's spot on. He came knowing that he would the manager would decide how much time he gets to play. He wasn't gonna,
Dictate that.
complain. He wasn't gonna complain if Kepa came back, and became first choice or anything like that. And that's
Yeah.
what's quite nice about him. That's what makes him really useful as a second choice, because he's very professional about if he's being picked or not.
Yeah.
So I think it would be great if we were
Fair
to
enough.
get Donnarumma and if Mendy were to play second choice, or if he comes back, let's say if he becomes amazing and if he's first choice, whatever, they can compete between themselves. But
I think
the
what
point
what
is,
we
we want to get a goalkeeper that we feel is better than what we
yeah
have already.
yeah
Yeah,
what we've seen as well is that you can never rely on making a player your first choice because like all players, it takes a bit of time to settle in. Sometimes they are uncomfortable in their environment that they're training in, so they might do things differently, and then those bad habits they do it every single day, and like we saw with Kepa, it can just fizzle out. I don't think he was that bad in his first season. I thought he was quite good actually. But it can change so quickly, and I think to have someone like Mendy, right behind Donnarumma, who's I think 7 or 8 years younger than Mendy, it can only benefit Donnarumma. I think Mendy's in a good position to take over if he needs to, sort of thing. So
yeah,
I think it would be quite a good move all round, and it would work out pretty well.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So okay, so that's done with the goalkeeping situation. So what I wanted to sort of move on to was where in the team do you think we need to strengthen, and how that sort of plays, how Lampard's presence at the club sort of dictates that. So I'll tell you where I think we need to strengthen is, I think right back is a position that I feel over and over again that we're getting absolutely hammered against, because when we don't have Reece, I just don't think Aspie cuts it anymore as a right back. So I think we need a
Mhm.
right back. I think Declan Rice, like I said, would be a fantastic signing. Is there any other sort of position that you can see or think of that we need real strengthening? Maybe not to be a first team starter, but maybe like a backup or fringe.
I think we need a bit more depth. We need a natural winger. I think even a fourth choice. We get injury problems with Pulisic quite often.
Hmm.
Ziyech has been quite unfortunate to find injury, and Hudson-Odoi, he's quite young and he had an Achilles.
He's had problems since his Achilles. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we need a natural winger. It doesn't have to be world class, but someone who we can rely on
Any names?
um, to keep it. No, I don't have any that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Um,
Obviously,
in
we,
fact,
we mentioned
I
we
think
mentioned sorry, we,
yeah,
we mentioned Memphis Depay on the last one.
yeah,
Um, I think he's someone, he also had a major injury, I think, in the last year or so, but he's since
mhm.
recovered from that, and I think he's scoring again freely like he was. But is that sort of player that we should go for?
He's up there. He's up there right now in terms of chances created in Europe. I think he's just above Mason Mount. Mason Mount is seventh in Europe right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So uh,
What do you think of
yeah,
what do you think of Pedro Neto at Wolves?
I know you love him. You absolutely love it. And I had
Quality.
more of a liking towards Podence. I saw a lot of Hazard in him,
Yeah. Yeah.
but Neto he's quite complete as well as a player.
Hmm.
So yeah,
What do you think
either
of
one is quite good.
What do you think of
Even
Leandro
sorry,
Trossard?
Trossard's good. Trossard's good.
Yeah.
One that is a bit, you may think, where did that come from? But I remember when we were playing Sevilla, I took quite a liking to one of their wingers. I think his name
Campos?
was no,
Camp
no, it wasn't. It was on the. I think his name was it Flores?
uh, I mean, probably not a football player, but I know why you know that name.
No, it was a good. I
I'm
quite
just
like
checking it right now.
that
Idrissi,
winger.
Munir, Joan Jordan, Acuna,
Acuna.
Vasquez.
It was Acuna. It was Acuna. Yeah,
Was it?
yeah, Acuna. I quite liked him.
Okay.
It's a strange one, but I just found attributes about him that I thought were really good as a winger.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm,
but I mean, there's so many others that you could think of as well. It's just a random one that I
I mean, I
remembered.
don't, I don't think we're particularly linked with anyone. Obviously, we were linked last year with Jadon Sancho. Um,
Hmm.
it's a bit difficult to see that one happening for obvious reasons now because
Yeah,
um, he is so heavily linked with Man United. But at the same time, if we needed him, I think if we wanted him, we would have got him. Um,
yeah,
but
definitely.
just with Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech, it's just difficult to see how spending 120 million pounds on him you can sort of justify no matter how good he is. But like we said, we need a bit of depth, and I don't think Sancho is for depth. I think he's for the first team to start every single game. So um,
Definitely.
yeah, there's also another Jared Bowen at West Ham. I know it's quite a random name, but just
Yeah, we were quite impressed by him
just
when
wanted to
when they
mention him.
played.
But yeah, very very good left-footed player. I think he's gonna get decent sized move in the near future. So one to
Hmm.
keep an eye on as well.
Yeah,
Anywhere else do you think we need to improve or strengthen?
we're quite packed in the midfield.
Yeah.
And as you already said, Declan Rice just to cover that DM role that Kante
Mhm.
is holding on to right now. Um,
Okay, so I mean,
yeah,
you can
I guess
keep. Yeah, go on.
no, I think the only thing was that if we were planning on sticking with Emerson as our second choice for left back, that was the only other
Yeah.
thought that came to mind.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. But we've obviously got three left backs at the moment, which we need to trim down for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, we obviously got linked with Erling Haaland, striker for Dortmund, who I think is phenomenal. But it's a bit difficult right now to see where he fits in because we're obviously trying to get Timo Werner going, and we know he can score a lot of goals. But it's just one of those players you can't turn down, can you? Like if you're like you got Tammy, you got Werner, but someone offers you Haaland for 70 million pounds, whatever it is. Like for me, I can't turn that down. He's too good. Like he's one of those players that are gonna, for me, win the Ballon d'Or. He's gonna score a bag of goals wherever he ends up.
yeah,
Would you say no to him?
I couldn't say no, especially with with Giroud leaving as well. I think he'd be great. First choice, I'd put him as first choice, of course.
Yeah,
Tammy second. Werner, I think I'd play him around Haaland.
yeah,
I think it'd be great partnership between them that we
yeah.
struck.
So, so hypothetically, I mean, if Lampard stays, I can see Declan Rice happening, Erling Haaland happening, Donnarumma happening. Um, but assume he doesn't. Say we get, I don't know, Thomas Tuchel. Do you think he changes much about the team, or do you think he works with what he has? Because he didn't have a very impressive squad starting this season. But do you think he comes in and changes anything with regards to like his playing style and stuff? Or do you think this is like the perfect? Do you think any manager can come in, take the squad, and make them good?
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're not, you know, top of the league, performing well, week in week out, then there's always something to
Yeah,
improve for sure. Um, in terms of his play style, I'm not too sure what he'd do, what he'd change, but I feel that he's definitely very happy. He said it before that he's quite happy um, with Werner and Havertz. He would love to have them. Antonio Rudiger as well. He's named
mm-hmm.
him as well. So a few players that he's definitely would be happy with. I think Mason Mount, he would be, he would definitely utilize him in his strengths.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I'm not too sure what he would change and how
Yeah,
much he
I
would
just
change.
think it's one of those squads that, okay, we're talking about a transfer special, but I just don't see the need for us to spend a lot of money at this stage. And I know we've spent a lot of money, but that's also accumulated, over the time of us having the transfer ban and not being able to sign anyone after selling Hazard and Morata. So, like, I mean, in that sense, like, we have done our spending, but even if we were to kind of continue spending, I can't see very many positions where we would need to spend unless players leave, or someone goes horribly out of form or wants to leave or whatever. So I think we're pretty set with the squad. And in terms of transfers, like, I think it's better to look forward to what happens nearer to the summer rather than now, because obviously this time last year we were quite pissed that we didn't have any. We were allowed to sign players, we just didn't sign any.
Yeah,
And then out of nowhere, we managed to sign Ziyech, and then obviously Timo Werner happened, Kai Havertz happened. So I think summer is a better time for us to look at those players. I don't think. I think January should be our time for to trim the squad down and get them ready for the next, say, 6 months or whatever. To keep everyone happy and to have everyone playing. But yeah, I think until the summer, I don't think there's much we need to do in that sense.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think any signings we do now would be for the just to make the squad even better. Not anything that is a necessity at this very moment.
Yeah.
I feel.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if so for the last, say, 1 minute, 60 seconds, if you had to name say 3 dream signings, and not necessarily dream like Messi and Ronaldo or Lingard.
Realistic ones, just a
Uh,
bit.
yeah, not Messi,
Lingard.
Ronaldo.
I caught that. Don't worry.
But like, from what we discussed, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
midfield and what have you. If you had to give me 3 names, what would they be?
Rice, Depay.
You're just naming food items, bruv.
Donnarumma.
Okay,
3 right there. Yeah.
fair. That's fair. I like that. I would go for Rice, Max Aarons, and Donnarumma.
Okay.
I love Max Aarons, man, and I think we really do need a right back. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see. I'm
I
quite
think there
tired
was
of.
talks of him going to Man United.
Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
mean they've got
they have.
they've got
Yeah.
Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
So
Let's
I
see
don't
how
know.
far he can go there.
He's such a top player, but yeah, let's see
Mhm.
what happens.
Yeah.
I'm quite tired of saying bad things about Aspie, so
Yeah.
hopefully bring someone in that I can abuse instead.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. So that's a little transfer things, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun.
Loved it.
We will discuss. We've got Morecambe at the weekend, so I doubt we're gonna have a have a podcast about that. But if it goes wrong somehow, and things just hit the fan, then we might have to. So let's see what happens. It'll be a fun month
Yep.
ahead. All
All
right,
right.
cool.
Thanks a lot for having me.
I will catch up with you in a bit. Cheers for that.
All right. See ya.